Welcome to the Duopoly Show. So happy to have you here this evening, a little bit past 7 p.m. on the East Coast. And yes, it is my mug yet again. But today I have a very interesting guest. I want to talk about, I've been talking third-party stuff forever, and I'm doing it again. I think it is the only way we're going to have any real change in this country if we can get some kind of third-party action going. Clearly, I'm biased to libertarians, but I'm happy for all of them. We got to get out there and see some change. So I want to talk to somebody here who is part of the Prohibition Party, which, yes, for some of you who don't know, actually exists in America and actually has ballot access in certain states and has a presidential candidate already, faster than us libertarians. See, shame on us. We should be copying them. So that's already happening. And so I'm bringing on right now the chair and treasurer of the Prohibition Party, Zack Kusnir. How are you, sir?
Pretty good. How about yourself, Larry? Thanks for having me on.
I'm doing great. I'm happy you came. And for people who want to see what's going on there, you can check out the website that I actually put in the description on both the YouTube, on this YouTube channel, and also on this Facebook channel also. Or you can just check out Zack directly at Zack Kusnir there on Twitter. That's for if you're listening, it's ZackKusnir. So let me ask you, Zack. You, personally, if I could, you were a former athlete, college athlete, and people think of the college athlete as somebody who's partying all the time, hanging out with the cool cheerleaders, do all that kind of stuff. That's the image. Clearly, that's not you, because you, for many years, have been part of the Prohibition Party. This isn't a new thing for you. You've been part for a while. Tell me how that happens in your life.
Correct. So I've never been registered with any party other than the Prohibition Party. For about 3 years after I turned 18, I was registered as an independent voter for full transparency. Ended up joining the Prohibition Party, realizing that it still existed and really aligning with its values. The piece about college athletes partying, that is true in many cases. But also in many cases, you see individuals who are so concerned with their health that perhaps they take on the social aspect and not as much of the partying aspect.
Got it.
So we do see that a lot, probably more often than people think about. One of the examples I like to give was I remember in season taking things really seriously. My roommates would kick friends out after a certain time when they knew I had to be up early in the morning. And at a local bar, when I would show up, the bartender would have a bottle of Fiji water ready to pour a glass for me. The bar didn't serve Fiji, but he bought it specially because he knew water was my drink of choice.
Oh, I love that. There we go. So that was a natural connection to you, right? Maybe what's the word I'm looking for? Maybe the values of the party are character, hope, and tradition. Mm-hmm. That is something you rarely hear about, particularly in politics. I mean, it's not a common set of values people talk about. They think about, we're left or we're right. You're talking about character, hope, and tradition. What does that mean?
Correct. So when I registered as a prohibitionist, one of the things I liked about the party is, unlike the left and the right, what we have seen over the decades, or at least in my lifetime, is it's gone from an environment of speaking of what you can do positively to pointing your finger at the other guy and slinging mud. I didn't see any of that with the Prohibition Party, and thought, that's just another point for them, and why I'd like to become a member and become active someday. As far as character, I think that speaks to it greatly, that we're not out there attacking other political parties, whether it's a major party or a third party. We're not afraid to express our differences, need be, but it's more about what can we do? How can we make a positive impact? Not what negative consequences is this other party going to have? And so, that ties into hope as well. Hope for, a more connected America, less divide. Hope for a healthier America by, addressing our main platform issue of alcohol and our character. Right. Our tradition. We are America's oldest active third party, established in 1869. And
wow.
What's funny is a lot of people don't know that we still exist. And I've gotten the question a lot of times, what's the Prohibition Party? I've never heard of them. And I ask them, well, you grew up in the United States, correct? Not in a condescending way, but just to make sure. And they say yes. And I'm like, go back to your American history class in high school. You have actually learned all about us. And that's our tradition. We've been around for a while, and we are still alive and strong.
So the issue that people are going to ask, of course, if they're into politics, that is, other people won't, but political people like me are going to ask, you have to struggle just like libertarians, like the Greens, like the Constitution Party. You have to struggle with ballot access. How do you handle getting on the ballot? I mean, it's got to be a massive challenge for you too, right?
That is a challenge that we're actually having internal discussions about right now. And one of the reasons that we picked the presidential candidate so early, so we can focus our efforts on ballot access. So recently being appointed as the chairman of the party, I have taken it upon myself to draft a very long, very detailed letter, which I am sending out to secretaries of states, lieutenant governors, and other individuals who I think relevant on the reasons I believe that our party and third parties, for that matter, should be granted ballot access in the name of a fair democracy and for better political environment for the country.
So we struggle with that too, obviously, and I mean all the parties do. This makes us it makes it harder for us to get presidential candidates because they go, why am I going to become on you when you guys can't get ballot access? And they fight us over this constantly. But you've done a different thing, which I happen to love. You've picked your presidential candidate the year before. I mean, that's amazing. How does that work? Do you guys have like a primary? In the Libertarian Party, we do a convention the same year, usually May of that year, and our delegates get together, and then they pick the presidential candidate and the vice presidential candidate. Two separate elections. We don't run as a ticket. We run separate elections for each of them, and that's how we pick our two. The problem with that, obviously, is, well, now we only got 6 months to the election, right? That's the problem. And a lot of issues pop up. In New York, I have to get ballot access for a party when I don't have a candidate yet. So I see what you're doing. We have that problem. How do you guys, what's your mechanics on that?
So, of course, as the Prohibition Party moved throughout the years, we used to have these large in-person conventions. And as we've become smaller in size, they did go to teleconference for a while, but there has been a very big resurgence over the last couple of years. I don't know if you've seen the shift online or in personal life, but with a lot of people who are going dry or at least limiting alcohol consumption. And, along with that, our party seemed a bit revived. So a few people actually had addressed their interest to run for president. And we got into a lot of discussions, probably more active than it normally would be, and decided, hey, now is the time to get back in person, throw another in-person convention, which we held up in Buffalo. We had active members, of course, at the convention, and we had people who couldn't attend voting by proxy. So, we have a very tight-knit group of men and women who have decided to become more active this year. I think that's also spurred by the current political climate as we see this divide between the two major parties. I think it's really inspired people to take a look at third parties. Perhaps people who haven't been as active in past years have decided to become politically active again for their third party. And some people, that's the Prohibition Party.
There we go. So Kaiwan asked, who's running for president? And you've already selected your presidential nominee. Who is that person?
We have a very amazing intellectual businessman and historian by the name of Michael Wood, CEO of his own company. Very smart. I just want to emphasize again, when you speak to him, it just oozes out of him. And he has been a drive for quite some time and has recently become active like me. And just very, very politically savvy. And so that's who we ended up electing as our presidential candidate. And I think he's going to do a great job conveying our message.
Excellent. So now that happens, he can now help you guys to gain ballot access in all the other states now.
Correct. Him and I are frequently in contact trying to strategize how we go about this so we can get his name and our party on multiple ballots.
Makes sense. So I want to go to what people are already asking. Dave asked, the Prohibition Party supports the criminalization of alcohol, drugs, and tobacco. But you guys aren't supporting criminalization. What you're supporting, if I understand it correctly, and correct me if I'm wrong, is you support the idea of banning all advertisements of tobacco, recreational drugs, alcohol, things like that. Am I correct in that?
That is correct. And if you look at the prohibition parties of the past, especially in their prime 1920 to 1933, they were a little bit more stringent on the criminalization. But as the years have gone by, I'm sure you guys have all heard the quote, the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over, expecting different results. And we realize we're in a point in time that implementing something like the Volstead Act or trying to be harder and make alcohol production and possession criminalized is something that is never going to work, at least not this day and age. So if our ultimate goal is to help people to reduce and eliminate their consumption of alcohol for a healthier, better America, and supporting states' rights and individuals' rights as well. We're not trying to take away what's in the bottle. What we're really against is not the consumption so much to say, even though we don't advocate for the consumption, we don't want to take that right from you. We are against the traffickers of alcohol. And the traffickers are these individuals who individually commercialize and produce this alcohol, taking advantage of uninformed people for monetary gain. We do want to ban the advertising because if you recall I believe it was called the Truth Campaign that was against the tobacco advertisements, and seeing the major impact that has had on the country. And I think most of the country, at least the vast majority, would agree that that was a great campaign and it did strengthen this country. So why can't we do the same with something like alcohol? I don't see a reason why my child has to go to a baseball game and see advertisements for imbibing poison.
Got it. So but there's a second piece also, which I think will scare them even more. Maybe is you actually don't want any more government subsidies. Now people get mad; they want their government money. So now you also want to ban all government subsidies to like tobacco and things like that.
Correct. We don't believe in subsidies that promote any unhealthy items such as tobacco and alcohol. I don't really think it makes sense, especially when we see that hundreds of thousands of people are dying from causes related to alcohol and tobacco each year. Why are we subsidizing that? It doesn't make any sense to me.
So what about the idea of, I guess what most people would call is a sin tax, right? So if you want to use these things, you may, but there's going to be a massive tax on them. Is that so? I'm assuming then, since the party is in states and also at the federal level, that you would be for localized taxation on this, as well as perhaps a federal tax on this, or only localized taxes.
I would like to instill both. I mean, we would believe in an excise tax, and I know, we speak of small government and reducing taxes for individuals, but when you're speaking of taxes of buying what we consider to be, a harmful substance, we do feel it is an exception to the rule. And if people still want to obtain their alcohol and pay that excise tax, that money can be then redistributed to programs for educating people on the harms of alcohol, or towards programs that help people rehabilitate themselves. Overall, trying to take the alcohol sales that do happen from being, mostly negative to giving them somewhat of a positive outcome in some way, shape, or form.
So let me do a little bit of admin if I could. For those of you who are listening to this or watching this on YouTube or wherever you may be watching this, please do me a favor. Click that like button. The like button does matter. You might think it doesn't matter. Click it. Why? Because you love me and you want me to get past the algorithms. That's why. So do it. Click that like button. It does matter. Every little click matters. You think yours doesn't? You are wrong. Yours does. So please do it. It does matter. If you're watching this on Twitter, then please retweet this right now. Let people know I'm on. Let people know I'm talking to Zack. Let's have this conversation. Please retweet it. It does matter. If you want to support the show directly, you may. You can super chat me on Larry Sharp YouTube to get your chat to the front if you want to. You can support me directly on Patreon if you want to. Patreon.com is awesome. But more importantly, Zack has given us some time today out of his day. He's given us some love. So let's give him some love in return. Check him out and follow him on Zack Kusnir. And if you're listening, that's ZACK Kusnir. Follow him on Twitter, or you can also see I gave you links on the YouTube page and also on the Facebook page if you want to follow what Zack is doing. So I want to keep going if I can, because your your idea of prohibition and your idea of cleaner, healthier goes even into agriculture. So it
Correct.
isn't just people; it goes to agriculture. The idea of supporting regenerative farming, ending not supporting GMOs, not supporting pesticides, things like that. Can you walk down that road for me?
Correct. So the agricultural policy that was instilled on our most recent platform was actually something that I drafted myself because that's something that's important to me. And going with my personal message of wanting to improve the health of this nation, we all eat, most of us, 3 or more times a day, and really what we eat is the basis of our health. And
Sure.
I think it's gotten to a point in this country and many westernized nations for that matter, where we have too many additives in our food. So when we look at alcohol and tobacco being harmful substances, a lot of people, I believe, overlook the substances that are going into our food and causing other health issues. So that's something that I would like this country to go ahead and improve upon. In addition to that, I know there's a lot of talk about ESG and the environment lately.
Yep.
I'm a huge supporter of regenerative farming. I've actually written an article for our publication, The National Prohibitionist, on the topic of regenerative farming and how it allows for the livestock and for the vegetation and for just the surrounding area to all work hand in hand with one another to be more environmentally friendly, as well as produce cleaner and more ethical food. And then in addition to that, it does provide an economic benefit for the farmers that are doing the regenerative farming. So I think there's a lot of good to come out of that. And I think a lot of people have never even heard of regenerative farming, and it's something I'd like to spread more of a message on, which is why I recommended that we instill it in our platform.
Well, the thing is, you're getting a little pushback from Terry. She says, if it was used for that, no problem. And I think her point is very often we tax something, right, with the idea that this tax is going to go help something. And then the government just takes the tax and goes fights a war with it, right, or whatever, right? They don't do the thing they're supposed to do. And in New York, you probably know, originally the lottery was supposed to be for education. They just took that money, right? They took it away. So don't we have a worry if we do the taxation you're talking about, and the goal obviously being to help out people, that some politicians go, no, we're going to take it and we're going to, I don't know, invade Poland or whatever we're going to do. I don't know, whatever stupid thing we want to do.
Yeah, and Terry, I'm very happy you brought that up because unfortunately, that's what we see time and time again. Raising taxes is going to solve this problem, is going to solve that problem. The problem is never solved, and then the money is never accounted for, and we don't know where it's going. And so that's one of the reasons I joined a third party as well. I'm sick of our tax dollars going to, fight foreign wars or be funneled into financial aid for something it shouldn't be funneled into, or being used for favors. I mean, we all see the potholes out there. We all see the problems that aren't getting solved. So, our platform, I would say, is an honest one. We're not one of the major two parties, so we don't have any intention of that.
There we go. There we go. So Gene says, no, he's not a libertarian. That's true. Everyone knows I'm a libertarian. Zach is not a libertarian. That's correct. But I have people of all parties on the show. He's another party which faces the same ballot access hurdles as libertarians. And this is why I think we should all be talking, Zach, because we're all fighting the same monsters or monster, right? Maybe the same monster, right? Which is the two-party system, right? And actually, Perry brings it up. She goes, two-party system is not the best, but it's all we have. I know, but I want to end that. I got to fight it. I mean, you have to hear this. Zach, you've got to hear people say, Zach, just run as a Republican. Zach, just run as a Democrat. Zach, just join a Republican. Zach, just join the Democrats. You have to hear that, right?
Yep, I hear that a lot. And my issue with it is I believe that the left wing and the right wing are part of the same bird, which is very unfortunate. So I see it more of a uniparty system. And now that's not a blanket statement to cover every politician, because I know there are a lot of politicians out there. They're very passionate about what they do, and they love this country like no other. They just may have different visions on how to, achieve the dream of a better America. But overall, I do think we have a problem of the good old boys club. It shouldn't be the left versus the right as the media is framing it to be. It's really a problem of us versus them.
There we go. There we go. So, yes. So I want to move into another piece, which you support the 10th Amendment in your platform, but certain parts I feel like push back on that. Like you're for school choice, which I love that. I think it's amazing, but you're also for free college. Help me square that circle. 10th Amendment, school choice, free college.
So 10th Amendment, going back to federalism, realizing the United States is in a way 50 different little countries. I mean,
100%.
I lived in New York City. I've lived out in California in both the suburbs and the exurbs, and every single place is completely different. So to have the same set of laws apply to every community with different cultures and different viewpoints, just doesn't make sense. We're not a smaller country up in Scandinavia or something where maybe it would make more sense. Regarding school choice, we believe there's an education problem in this country with the rising costs of tuition. I mean, it is ridiculous to see people in hundreds of thousands of dollars of debt that they're never going to be able to pay back. And, I understand people took out these loans on their own free will at the age of 18. But let's have an honest conversation here. As an 18-year-old, you're not in the best condition to make that decision, especially when you've been primed by educators, by college counselors who have primed your family as well to sell you on the stream of education, making it sound like it'll be paid back within a few years. It's really just predatory lending, in my opinion. And so I think that needs to be addressed. I do have a bit of a different thought on, if you read our platform, we discuss student loans and something I wrote about in the National Prohibitionist as well. Regarding relieving the tax bomb at the end of student loan forgiveness.
Oh, okay.
Rather than, I like our platform too. It's what we agreed upon. So, I know it's a very hard subject to address. There is no perfect solution. And sorry, I've gone on a bit of a tangent there. But I mean, when you look at the 10th Amendment in different states and supporting certain things here and there, it's just not a perfect system, where it's sometimes hard to draw the line and there have to be certain exceptions to the rules. And sometimes you have to look at things in a vacuum and say, hey, how can we help here?
Okay. Missy says, the good old boys club does indeed exist. It's a big part of keeping the duopoly ruling. Yes, and I think the only way is by having, which is why I bug you, Zach, about your policies. I think the policies are the things that make people think. Right? Someone's going to say, oh, I like that one. Or, oh, that's crazy. Or, oh, that's awesome. That's going to move them to think about you, right? Whether they love it or hate it or whatever is their thought process. Otherwise, we're just pointing the finger at each other, right? Oh, Democrats evil, Republicans evil. I think this is the much better way of doing things. So I completely agree. I'm sure that, I mean, in my state, New York, I get punished mostly by Republicans. Does either side kind of more mad at you? Are Democrats, Republicans more mad at you? Either side?
I tend to get a lot more hate from the left. I will say it does come from both sides. I think a lot of people misinterpret the party because a lot of the attacks on me really have no teeth, no value, and don't make any sense. So that's just what I've seen. I don't know why, but that's just the pattern.
Got it. So let me move to Second Amendment. Very big for libertarians. All about it. Very big for us. Your platform, if I get it right, is you draw the line on assault weapons, on what you call weapons of war. That's your line. So you're like, Second Amendment is fine, but when it comes to assault weapons, now we got to have regulation. Did I get that kind of right, or am I off on that?
Correct. That's what the party had voted on. And I don't want to stray from the party as well, but I know the term assault weapon is a little bit murky. What is classified as an assault weapon? And I know there's the common misconception that the AR-15 stands for assault rifle, when it actually does not. I'm blanking on the name of the company that started with AR, which it's actually named after. But I believe Americans deserve the right to bear arms in order to protect themselves against an oppressive government. Because of course we say, hey, it could never happen to me. It could never happen to us. But we could never have a situation like we did in 2020 where everything was going to be locked down. Correct. So, without touching on that too much, the pandemic too much. I mean, I do believe in the right to bear arms, and I would say that my interpretation of the Second Amendment would allow for a little bit more than what our platform does overall. But that's what the party had democratically voted on.
Understood. So I want to then go to the big one, which is Medicare and Medicaid. If I understand the party's stance is basically keep it as it is. It's you don't want Medicare for all, as most Democrats want, but you also don't want to get rid of Medicare and Medicaid. It's kind of keep it kind of status quo. Did I read your platform correctly?
For the most part, correct, and that's how I would interpret it as well. I mean, individuals who are over a certain age and who have put work, time, and effort into this country do deserve to have their medical program that they were promised. Personally, I disagree with the Medicare for all approach, and I don't want to sound evil in that I want to take away people's health care, but or take away this idea of health care. But the reality is that humans are incentive driven, and when you give somebody something for free, they're not going to take care of their health. So as mean as it sounds, some people need a little bit of tough love, because when they have that free health care, they will allow themselves to continue with unhealthy habits and put themselves at danger, knowing that they have that built-in safety net. And when you put them put their back up against the wall, and they know that they actually have to fend for themselves, they're actually going to be better off. So, it could sound mean, but I think it actually helps more people than it hurts. And, we saw with the whole healthcare debacle of premiums going up with the last president, or sorry, 2 presidents ago, I apologize. And not to throw anybody under the bus. I'm just saying what had happened. Why should people start subsidizing the health of people who don't care about their health?
Why should the government subsidize people who don't care about their health? That's an interesting way of putting it. Huh. Okay.
Well, look, I mean, if you're going to provide Medicare for all, somebody like myself, who I eat very healthy, I exercise very healthy, I encourage my friends to do it, I make sure my family stays healthy, and do everything keeping health, top of mind, because that's, a huge priority for me. So why should I have to, put in all this effort and then subsidize somebody else's health who doesn't want to put any effort into it? It just doesn't make any sense.
I'm a libertarian. I'm not complaining. I'm with you.
Yeah.
we're totally online. No issue with me.
I don't work my 9 to 5 to pay somebody else's salary. Why should I pay your health care?
Well, there we go. Absolutely. So I guess what I want to bring, which is a personal note, you mentioned your health. You are very transparent on your health. You're very transparent what you do. You're on keto, right? Keto lifestyle, is that correct?
Correct. For the most time, I eat a ketogenic diet and keep it very low carb when I'm not. I'll indulge occasionally, but for the most part, I'm pretty keto.
I literally have been on the keto lifestyle for 13 years, so I'm with you.
Amazing.
Yes, 13 years. I teach people all the time. I have every morning. I have a half pound of bacon and 4 eggs every morning. It's my breakfast.
That's what I'm talking about. And you look great.
Well, the funny thing, and this is a thing I tell a story often. I only go to the doctor when I run for office, because I have to have medical records for running for office. Otherwise, I don't go. So yes, absolutely. Just kind of funny.
Had no need. I went for my free checkup a couple of times just because, hey, you should get this. But I've had no other reason to go.
Absolutely. So I guess the last piece I'll bring up is, I guess the biggest piece that almost all parties in some way agree with, not all, but most do, is that the defense of the country is important, right? Military is important, right? But the issue I worry about is, where does the Prohibition Party stand when it comes to funding all the wars that we're in? I mean, we're always in a war somewhere, right? Does the Prohibition Party support the wars, not support the wars? Where does the Prohibition Party stand on basically the military-industrial complex?
Well, we believe we should have a strong military that's funded to defend this country. And I'm going to speak for myself here on behalf of my beliefs. I don't believe in any of these foreign wars we're involved in right now. I see some of them as money laundering schemes, to be blunt with you. If we have a military for homeland defense, they should be in our homeland defending our border. We shouldn't be out fighting for the interests of other people, doing favors and laundering money. There's really no reason for a lot of the foreign intervention that we're getting involved in. It's a huge waste of our money that could be reallocated elsewhere to fund a stronger America.
There we go. So, guys, if you like what we're talking about here, then please click that like button. It really does matter, right? I know I keep bugging you because it matters. That's why I bug you. I wouldn't bug you because I'm just bored. I'm doing it because it matters. It's how we get past the algorithms. If you want to follow Zack, you can please check him out on Twitter at Zack Kusnir, Zack Kusnir, and that is ZackKusnir, or check him out on the Facebook page or the YouTube page. Zack, I want to say thanks for coming aboard. Anything you want to bring up before we wrap this up?
I just want to thank you so much for bringing me onto the show. I think it's it's really an honor and a great way to spread the message that the Prohibition Party still exists. You can find us at prohibitionparty.org if you're interested. And again, as Larry said, you can find me on Twitter at Zack Kusnir, and I'd be more than happy to provide you resources on our party if you would like so. And to everybody out there, I just want to wish you all a very blessed day and the best of happiness and health.
There we go. Awesome. Guys, thank you so much for giving me a chunk of your evening. I will be back here tomorrow at 7 p.m. doing an AMA. You can ask me anything. Doesn't matter.